The Eagles, the entire end of the season, do not have to get on a plane. That's very good stuff. You just trains.
Trains and
First
automobiles.
5 games are really tough. Okay, here's one thing about the Eagles that I noticed: 2 really tough, loud atmospheres with good defenses on the road for young center. You talk about like changing over from Jason Kelsey, new mechanics, that sort of thing. New offense. New Orleans and Tampa Bay on the road's tough.
But if David Carr did it,
then why haven't all the others?
Caleb Williams will do it.
Then why haven't all the others?
Because they're not Caleb Williams.
I kind of
and there's no situation that has been stepped into like Caleb Williams stepping.
I cannot wait for Texans-Lions. The last time these two teams played each other, I think they were both 4-9 in 2021. You think about like organizational turnover on both parts, like incredible. And to see these two young teams face off is going to be great. Probably wrap this thing up with the schedule, talking about the schedule releases. Because that's been a topic that people like to hit. Here's my advice to NFL teams. You don't have to do one.
Right.
Like, there are some really bad ones.
I have a confession to make.
Sure.
It was a couple minutes till 8 o'clock on Wednesday night. And I thought, oh, the schedule's being released. Let me get to the channel. And then I paused and I thought, no, I'm not going to be in the chow line this evening. I will read the schedule when it's released.
Good for you, man.
Yeah.
Because I got to tell you, I'm pretty sure schedule release is mostly for people making content, which is you.
Yeah.
But I didn't opt into it either. I like caught up on all these yesterday. By the way, the NFL is just making this thing now, like where it's another ownership of the calendar.
I feel a little beat up by
event.
that statement.
Which one?
The one you just made to him. The one you just beat him up with.
What did I say?
We're content creators. We have to watch the schedule release.
Yeah.
I'm not into edging.
What's edging?
Like waiting.
Oh, you like watching.
I'm like,
well, so you're a content creator. That you
but I want to see it. No. In terms of my consumption of the schedule release.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be slow drip. I want to load that bowl up with as much as I got and rip it to the dome and look at it. I want to see all the weeks. I want to see everything right now. I can't do I have the week 7 on my board and the week 1, but where's the weeks? You know what I'm saying?
You want the whole schedule.
Boom, release it.
He's talking about like consuming it when it all falls down on your head at once.
Just press the button one time. Show us.
Have you heard who the Jets are playing in November? No, it's 9 o'clock. I'll catch up tomorrow.
Another thing is strength of schedule. Well, really? Because we didn't know about the Houston Texans at this point last year.
You took the words out of my mouth. You look at the strength of schedule. I'll give you a certain, and this is why. Hey, it's the top 4 teams in strength of schedule are going to be good. They're like the Chiefs and those teams. I looked, but then there's a lot of teams whose winning percentages swing by 200 points in a given year. Like, look at the Browns. They're way up from last year. Look at the Bengals last year. They're down 3 games, and that's because of Joe Burrow's injury, which I don't know if you noticed. These things happen. And this year, if you factor in the Bengals as a low winning percentage team, like that's going to skew things unrealistically because I'm pretty sure Joe Burrow is going to be back.
Yeah. Could I interest you in a factoid?
Sure, yeah.
The Lions from week 1 through week 15 will play 1 outdoor football game.
This seems
Jared
fake.
Goff.
1.
Jared Goff is the happiest man on the planet.
That's
also,
fake.
check Seattle's indoor-outdoor splits because Gino's another indoor guy. We figured that out last year.
We should have played quarterback, dude.
Should have played quarterback, yeah.
Fuck.
Should have been somebody's wife. You just have to be in the kitchen every night.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Fuck it all day.
I don't agree with that. So another one, Vikings, 13 wins 2 years ago. Last year, they're 588%, win percentage, 764 the year before. Bengals, 12 wins, obviously lost 3 games there. Chargers, they lost 5 games last year more than they did the year before. They were -5 compared to 2022. You just don't know when this stuff's going to happen. Packers, the interesting thing about the Packers, boy, doesn't it feel like they won a lot more games last year. They barely won more games. I think that's because the second half of the season they were so good, right? And Jordan Love kind of came on. But their win total this year is like 9.5. We're going to start looking at win totals in conjunction with these
projected.
schedules. Well, Vegas, if you want to bet on BetMGM, for instance.
There you
Packers,
go. That's what it is.
There's a total that I'm looking at, and I'm seeing 9.5.
Ooh, 10.5.
10.5 now?
Yeah.
Steamed up. So that's just a game more than the last 2 years, a game or two more. Like, and when you start to look at these schedules, like I wanted to jump on the Texans schedule, right? But they got a motherfucker of a stretch to end the season, dude. Like you look at the Texans to finish the season.
Go slow.
Yeah, the Texans to finish the season have got a murderer's row of teams. All right, we'll start with the Jets, October 31st. They're going to play at the Jets versus Detroit, at Dallas versus Tennessee, who I think is going to be tough, and healthy dislike in division. You almost count like an in-division game, like a tough game no matter what, especially in December. At Jacksonville versus Miami, at Kansas City versus Baltimore, at Tennessee. And when you start to look for bad teams this year, I think it's a little harder to find those teams, right?
Who was it the other day? Kyle Brandt said no team will have less than 10 wins.
That's ridiculous.
I was like, that's wild.
That's ridiculous.
But to your point, there's less. He was taking what you said and throwing it a mile down.
Yeah, there's just less teams that you're like, yep, that's a win.
There's no bad ball.
But that changes when the season starts. There's also teams like Dallas to me. Dallas to me is going to be a team. I'm saying it here right now. I look at their roster. The running back room is pedestrian. The wide receiver room, if CeeDee Lamb pulls up with a hamstring, is thin, okay? The tight end, Ferguson's a nice player. The offensive line, I like Tyler Smith. I love Zach Martin. But outside of that, it's Steele at right tackle. That's a tough matchup for them.
Takes three people to go up front.
Tyron Smith's in New York now, right? So there's a lot that has to happen. We haven't even talked about the quarterback who you don't even feel comfortable enough giving a deal.
You're at the end of your rope there.
You lose Dan Quinn.
From a management perspective, from an ownership perspective, from a quarterback perspective, it feels like it's expired milk in Dallas, and it has even through the second half of last year.
Well, that, for instance, is a team that could be not as good as you think. You look at them on the schedule, you're like, that's a tough out, but maybe they're not as good as you think. So it's just the point is, I agree with you, Megan. Strength of schedule is really imperfect. So is point differential. Me and Matt were talking about this earlier because point differential can help here. But there's also teams that win one game by 40 points and it inflates 50. Or 50 points and inflates their point differential.
Or that Raiders-Chargers game to end the season last year where the Raiders had like 62 points.
Right.
The
so all of a sudden,
let's get out of here alive.
The Raiders are like a really tough team because their PD's up.
Yeah.
I think they should do this by quarterbacks. I think if you want an accurate representation of how difficult the schedule is going to be, it needs to be heavily weighted on who the quarterback is. Because, for instance, Atlanta is going to be a totally different team this year. I thought last year they were a good team, had a bad quarterback. This year, they're a good team with a good quarterback.
Two good quarterbacks.
And two good, possibly. So we'll see. I mean, you just don't know it.
And you can't predict who stays healthy at the quarterback position either. If you have to have a schedule front-loaded with really good teams or back-loaded, which would you prefer?
It depends on the team you are. If you have an established program, I don't mind starting out with tough tests. If you're starting out and you're trying to build your team into something and you've got a new coaching staff, you would rather have those tough games later in the season. I think also if you're like the Patriots in their prime, play me in December. Bill used to say, hey, season starts after Halloween, I think it was. And I was like, why are we here? And, he's like, well, to get better so that when after October, it's for real, we have been doing this shit and we've shaped our team into what we want our team to be. So I think that's a big one. I think when you look at the schedule, you always look at bye weeks, Kyle. That's
the first question you ask. When's our bye?
When's our bye? How many primetime games? I mean, this year, there's a few teams that don't have any primetime. Well, there's one team that has no primetime games.
The Ravens play 3 games in 8 days or something like that at one point.
You're looking at things like that. When I played in St. Louis, I think if you added it up over the first 5 years of my career.
When do we go to Miami?
Over the first 5 years of my career, I think I maybe played in 2 primetime games. That's just like when I look at the Panthers now as a retired player, I'm like, oh, I was on the Panthers. Because that primetime games really tell you a lot about how much juice an organization has in the league. And when you look at primetime games this year, you've got the Jets with a fuckload. I think they have 5 or 6.
Got robbed.
So they are totally...
3 teams have 6.
Hitching their wagon to this Aaron Rodgers thing, good or bad, right? Last year, it burned them. They're right back in the chow line, so to speak, trying to put Aaron Rodgers on TV as many times as possible. And if he stays healthy, it'll be great. That San Francisco Jets game early in the season, that's going to be a great game. The Cowboys have 6. I think the NFL is at risk of having some pretty shitty games if the Cowboys take a step back. I also think they missed out.
The primetime game is big too.
That's huge. Where you play.
It's there was a couple years where I kind of didn't want to play the Packers in prime time.
Well, they're in a bunch
because
of
they were
games,
so damn good, and we weren't able to match their offensive onslaught. We go out there and play, and it would be like, God, get me out of this fucking stadium. And you'd be under the lights, the fans would be going crazy, and you got the camera on the wire, and you know that everybody's at home watching.
Yeah.
That's a horrible feeling. So there's almost like
if you're on a bad team,
if you're on a
walking
bad
into
team,
an ambush at night,
you want to play at noon.
I want to play in a hangar.
Yes.
There are 9 teams that play 5 primetime games. There are 6 that play 4. If you had to take one out of the 5,
right,
and bring one from the 4 up to 5, who are you taking out of Ravens, Bills, Bengals, Lions, Chiefs, Rams, Eagles, Packers, Dolphins?
I'm swapping Rams for Texans.
If I'm like your average football fan, the Dolphins always lay eggs in prime time, so I might not want to see the Dolphins. But if you're a Dolphins hater like me, like I've been coined as that, I kind of like watching the Dolphins in prime time because everybody it's my moment to be like, hey, motherfucker, you remember all the shit you were saying to me about how stupid I was? Now you have to watch. You can't act like you're watching something else. It's Thursday night football. It's Monday night football. It's Sunday night football. And I look like a genius.
If Justin Fields ends up playing a little bit, I think the Steelers could be fun to watch in primetime.
I think the Steelers are a fun team in primetime. Atlanta's getting. You should not put indoor teams hosting primetime games. You do as little of that as possible. Football looks the best outside. So while Atlanta's in the 4 slot, I have no qualms about that. I think the Texans should be a little bit higher. I think there's a team that's a lot of fun that only has one primetime game. There's actually 2 of them, the Colts and the Titans. I think the Titans are going to be fun this year, and I think the Colts are going to be a lot of fun this year. If Anthony Richardson comes on, they're going to be flexing him. The Cardinals, I think, are going to be more exciting than people give them credit for. 6.5 wins is the total. I'm probably going to take the over on that. They're only in one primetime game. The market dictates that, but they are going to be fun. Why do we have to watch the Broncos twice in primetime? I'm not sure.
Nick.
Although they didn't disappoint last year in big spots.
No.
That Minnesota
they beat
game
the
was
Kansas
incredible.
City Chiefs in primetime?
They beat the Bills in primetime. So maybe that's what it is. The league looks at it and says, "Hey, Sean Payton in primetime, like they're gonna be ready to roll."
Didn't they break the streak against the Chiefs last year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
did.
I'm not going crazy.
No, they did, but it wasn't primetime.
No.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
It felt like primetime.
Yeah,
It was an afternoon window.
It was a 4 p.m.
Which feels like
Yeah, it was a late game, and they ran the ball up Kansas City's ass. And the other time that they played the Chiefs kind of tough, we were getting off that pumpkin float.
Yeah.
When I wrecked the pumpkin, I think it was like 17-10.
Yeah.
So it anyways, primetime games, you got to watch the Jets. Like, well, hopefully they stay healthy. Anthony Richardson, I could use some more. Titans, I could use some more. Why are the Patriots in primetime at all? The Raiders are fun in primetime, so I'm okay with the Raiders.
Everything looks cool at that Vegas stadium.
Yeah, that's one indoor stadium. You can put that thing at night because it looks awesome.
6 New York Jets primetime football game.
It's going to be crazy.
They
Jets
are banking on that Achilles being okay.
And here's an interesting nugget for you guys. I'm going to put this bet in ASAP. I'm going to bet the Titans week 1. Okay, that's my lock for week 1. Like, you're not going to remember this when we give the locks, but I'm
just are out here doing that, huh?
Yeah, I'm doing it because guess what? Caleb Williams could be really good, right, Kyle?
Here we go.
But he's got to see L'Jarius Sneed, Awuzie, fucking Simmons the first week. Like, they're going to be throwing some looks at him that he didn't see a lot in college. And so all I'm saying is when you look at that and you couple rookie starting QBs week 1 since 1970, last one to win week 1 was David Carr. Okay, so it's been a while, Kyle.
But if David Carr did it,
then why haven't all the others?
Caleb Williams will do it.
Then why haven't all the others?
Because they're not Caleb Williams.
I kind of like
and
the
there's no
Titans week 1.
situation that has been stepped into like Caleb Williams stepping in.
Another interesting rookie quarterback deal, the Rookie Bowl, week 8. The Commies and the Bears. Okay, if you remember last year, that was a death game. This is a rookie bowl. So a lot of extra meaning when these two teams play. We got the Rookie Bowl this year. Last year was a death game. Texans Colts this year, it went to Richardson, right? You know, C.J. Stroud's the second coming. He is, but it went to Richardson. C.J. Stroud, if you remember this, I don't know if everybody. Can you remember what happened when the Texans played the Panthers last year?
No. Oh, they got beat
by the Panthers.
Yeah.
Bryce Young.
15-13.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know these rookie quarterback duels are pretty interesting. Like Trevor Lawrence lost to Zach Wilson, Mariota beat Winston back in 1993. Rick Meyer beat Drew Brees. Like, I feel like you don't know when you see the two QBs face off the first time, but it could be a lot of fun.
Chris, August 1st, 8 p.m., the Hall of Fame game, Houston Texans being hosted by the Chicago Bears. It could be C.J. Stroud, it could be Caleb Williams, Joe Buck, Troy Aikman on the call.
Do you think Caleb's going to get a lot? I mean,
Probably be hosted by Canton, Ohio, would it not?
Yeah, but they're
the home team.
It's
Okay.
all about sideline.
It's all about sideline.
Okay.
Another thing is
Pretty cool, though.
if you're talking about the Texans, I cannot
2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks.
totally. Yeah, put them in. I cannot wait for Texans Lions. The last time these two teams played each other, I think they were both 4-9 in 2021. You think about like organizational turnover on both parts, like incredible. And to see these two young teams face off is going to be
And
great.
2 opposite styles and feels about those ball clubs.
But both physical in their own ways. I think that's going to be a physical game. I look forward to that game. 3-13 and 4-13.
That game's got a little Toros versus Clovers to it.
The Lions
Bring
and
it on.
Texans were 3-13 and 4-12 or something in 2021. They were both 4-7 when they faced off. So it's going to be a lot different atmosphere. Shows how
2020.
far they 2020.
Yep.
It's going to be a lot different atmosphere. Super excited to see that game. I'm really excited to see the Diggs Bowl, Week 5. Everybody knows,
Lot
been
of
circling
shit
that
talk.
thing, wondering when we're going to watch. You know, Diggs is going to be off the chain.
Probably going to be an AFC divisional game, too. Wild card?
Yeah, that'll be wild.
You think so?
Yeah. I do.
I think the Bills win the division. I
Okay.
think the Texans win the division.
Divisional there.
I think
Yeah,
those tight
divisional,
ends.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
those tight ends go ham in Buffalo this year.
I think so too.
But Chris, you said that the Bears are going to lose to the Titans Week 1. Do you mind if I just hit you rapid fire on the Bears
Yes,
schedule?
I'll give you.
Let's go through this.
So
So,
NFL
I'll give you
set 'em
my
up.
pick. You give your
Okay.
pick. Make and interject
Okay.
as necessary. Week 1, Bears are hosting the Titans
Loss.
with a historic #1 quarterback. The Bears are going to win at home.
Okay,
It's going to
loss.
be a raucous fucking environment for my man Will Levis, who I
Okay.
like.
Okay,
Week 2, Bears Texans
loss.
on the road in Houston. I think they do catch an L on the road. I think that Caleb Williams, Week 3 in Indianapolis, outplays Anthony Richardson in a shootout.
Gus Bradley doesn't do much. I mean, he just sits back there
Dub.
and plays zone. So, that could be interesting.
Eberflus is going to make Anthony Richardson chuck the ball around, I think.
Eberflus, it's a Eberflus homecoming game. I can't call that one.
So now we've got the Los Angeles Rams,
Loss.
who historically play very poorly at Soldier Field, traveling to Soldier Field. A 1 o'clock game in September. It's going to be humid still.
Okay,
I got the Bears.
okay. You guys are going to pick your first win up or second win up against the Carolina Panthers.
Carolina Panthers, we're going to win at Soldier Field. It's going to be a big game. I think it'll be one of those games like we had against the Bucks with Mr. Trubisky at 5 touchdowns.
I think you're too I think the Bears might be too physical for Jacksonville. I could see the Bears upsetting Jacksonville.
I think that'll be an interesting armchair quarterback Monday morning when you and I sit down and potentially talk about Trevor Lawrence's performance against Caleb Williams.
Yep. I think they beat the Commanders. I don't think the Commanders are going to be as good as people think.
I think Jaden Daniels will be
capable
fun.
as
If
people
he's
think.
still around in late October, it'll be
Yep.
an interesting game.
Yep. I think they're going to lose to the Cardinals.
I think that Kyler Murray is going to have a great year. I think this is going to be a really tough one for the Bears to pick up on the road. I think it's a loss.
Okay.
I think they beat the Patriots at home. I think Drake May is settling in by November 10th. But Caleb
I think
Williams,
they beat the
too
Patriots.
much.
I think they lose to the Packers.
Packers, they're hosting the Packers. I think they beat the Packers at
Okay.
home the
Okay.
first time around.
I'll go win against Minnesota.
Win against
I'll
Minnesota.
go loss at Detroit.
Loss in Detroit,
I'll go
toughest place to play in the NFC North.
I'll go loss at San Francisco.
Man, that's a tough one. That's
I'll
a
go loss at Minnesota. Hey, rookie Wall. It's getting late in the season.
I gotta
Let's see the
win.
Things he has.
I got to win at Minnesota.
Okay. I've got them beating Detroit.
At home,
Yeah, at late.
because Detroit has to go
And
outside.
Detroit has trouble
It's the
outside. It's one
first
of their
week.
only outside
It's
games.
the first week Jared's gone outside.
Yep. He's gonna be like, man.
Howie from the what movie was that? The baseball movie? The kid who didn't want to go outside. Seahawks at Bears. Last time the Seahawks were at Bears, I think Russell Wilson threw a pick 6 to Prince Amukamara. It was 2018.
Okay, so that's outside. That's Geno outside. I think you got a shot to win that game. I'll give you.
I hope it's windy, late December,
and then you're gonna lose at Green.
and then
Bay.
we got the Green Bay
That's sweet.
Packers, and I think we could take an L there and split decision on the year.
Okay, so what do we come out with? How many wins?
Kyle 11-6.
What's the fucking laugh for, Matt?
Chris Long 7-10.
Yeah. And what's their win total?
8.5.
8.5. Take the under.
No,
Take
I'm
the
taking
under.
the over. I'm hammering the over.
Not quite ready. You want to do the Eagles now?
Yeah, let's do the Eagles.
And I'll tell you, while you're pulling up the Eagles, I'll say this. The Eagles, the entire end of the season, do not have to get on a plane. That's very good stuff. You just trains. First 5 games are really tough, okay? Here's one thing about the Eagles that I noticed. 2 really tough, loud atmospheres with good defenses on the road for a young center. You talk about like changing over from Jason Kelsey, new mechanics, that sort of thing. New offense. New Orleans and Tampa Bay on the road's tough. You saw what Tampa did to you last year. And then they get Cleveland. Like, they're going to have a lot of strong defensive stretches, and they play at the Rams and then at the Ravens. But at the end of the season, it gets kind of easier.
They got to
So
hold
if they
up
could just
physically
play a little bit better at the end of the season.
and hold up physically.
Hold up physically. Okay, let's start at the top. Eagles. I got them
Loss.
beating Green Bay.
Do you think there's more Packers fans or Eagles fans in Brazil?
Eagles.
10 days later, they're home for Atlanta.
I got to win.
Matt nods like he knows the number.
I got to win. I just don't think Atlanta has enough defensively to affect pass rush
First franchise.
and beat
Second
those guys.
At New Orleans, then at Tampa Bay.
Win-win.
Okay, I've got them losing to the Saints, losing to Tampa Bay.
Wow.
I've got them beating the Cleveland Browns. I've got them beating the Giants.
Kyle, where are you on those 2?
Which ones? Cleveland and Giants?
Uh-huh.
I've got them losing to the Cleveland Browns and beating the New York Football Giants.
Okay.
Okay. I've got them losing to Cincy. I have them beating Jacksonville.
Mhm.
I have them beating Dallas.
Mhm.
I have them beating Washington. I have them
Beating the Rams. Mark me down for all those, including the Rams.
beating the Rams, but losing to the Ravens.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lost to the Ravens.
Beating the Panthers.
Agreed.
Beating the Steelers. Beating Washington. Sweeping Dallas. Sweeping the Giants. What am I, 11-6?
Too many.
It got tough in there. I think 12-5.
Okay.
And how about Kyle's record for the Eagles?
Okay, you're 11-6.
Okay. So we worked out our former teams. All right.
That was good.
Another thing to keep an eye on, Broncos at Saints. That's going to be big. The Sean Payton Bowl down there in New Orleans. I think he'll be cheered.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Harbaugh Bowl,
Yep.
week 12 is going to be great. Falcons at Vikings. Kirk Cousins coming home. I think he's going to be cheered. Those people don't know how to boo. They're going to boo plaid shirt Kirk Cousins. And then Raiders at Saints, possible spoiler with Derek Carr at the helm, because I actually think the Saints are going to be okay this year. I actually think they're going to take a step forward. Another one I can't wait to see if there's going to be an Antonio Pierce Harbaugh rivalry. I feel like those two guys, there's only room for one of them
after the game.
You know what I'm saying?
Some real
They're very different.
physical
Yes.
interaction.
A very a dap where
And they both want to still play.
Yep, they both still want to play. Chiefs Chargers week 4. It's going to be great. And week 1 we get Brady out of the gate.
Yep.
Browns, Cowboys. Listen, San Francisco is
Greg Olsen
favored in
hurt.
every game they're playing in.
Wow. That'll change.
That'll change. And I was talking to Dominique Foxworth about this earlier. San Francisco, you can make them favorites in every game, but that doesn't mean you should bet the over-win total. They're one injury away in certain spots. As good as they are, their team changes so much if one of two guys get hurt on offense.
Because they lead the lead in X-Men.
Trent Williams.
Brock Purdy matters, right?
If you take an X-Men out, the movie ends differently.
Trent Williams,
Yeah.
Deebo Samuel, you saw what they look like without one or both of those guys last year. And then, if you look at them defensively, look how much they changed in a game when Dre Greenlaw went down the Super Bowl. So
look how much they rely upon Fred Warner in the passing game, like defensively. Like he goes out, he can cover 3 layers of the defense.
and everybody's got injuries, so I'm not downing the Niners. All I'm saying is, and I'm not doubting them. If you remember, I'm the one every year who says they're going to be right back in it. Like I've been doing this for 4 years, and that's the one thing I have not missed. But I will say this: they are as susceptible to one guy getting hurt and it changing everything as anybody in the league.
Can I
Position player.
read you all the beginning for the Baltimore Ravens?
Sure.
To your point, at Patrick Mahomes. This is for the first 5.
Yeah.
At Patrick Mahomes, at Dak Prescott, home Josh Allen, at Joe Burrow.
That's a motherfucker,
That's
dude.
a motherfucker.
That's a motherfucker. And if you look at international, Packers, Birds, Brazil, Jets, Vikings, London, Jags, Bears, London, Pats, Jags, London. And I think I understand why Pats are in London because they like the Patriots there. Like, you know,
I would figure they would hate the Patriots.
No, it doesn't make sense that way, but they really like
It's like we love Toyotas.
Okay, Giants, Panthers in Munich. And
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure somebody already made this joke, but this is the way you stand up to Nazis. You send them Giants, Panthers.
Hey, Giants are going to be okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Can't hold their past against them.
Giants are not going to be okay. And let me tell you this about the Giants. I was going through their roster.
How do they cover
'cause
that?
We just
journey?
wrapped up doing our this time of year I go through every team. The Giants to me stink like somebody upstairs is like, hey, we're taking this year off. I have this idea in my head that if you were not trying to get better this year, you are biding your time for the right coach, right? Who is that coach?
Bill?
He doesn't hate them as much as he hates all the other teams up there.
Think about it. You're not going offense again. This is like, it's just, if you reason through it, most teams, they have an offensive head coach, they go defense. Dable, offensive coach. If they go defense off of this, who's it going to be? Now, there's some name that's not out there. Ryan Nielsen could be a head coaching candidate next year. Ryan Nielsen, Jeff Ulbrich could be a head coaching candidate next year. Lou Anarumo has been a head coaching candidate. But we know they don't just give head coaching jobs to defensive guys. I feel like Bill, with his Giants thing and the fact that they knew coming into this season he's not available, we got this bad contract with Danny Dimes. Why throw more money at it? Why make moves that we're going to regret later? They're just not very good. I look at them on paper and I'm like, that's an easy under 6.5. Now, I could be dead wrong on this thing because just 2 years ago, you looked at that roster, didn't seem like a great team, and they won a playoff game.
Yeah,
okay?
that's why I wouldn't want to be quick to move on from Dable. He's been 500 with a playoff
with Danny Dimes.
win with Danny Dimes.
But I'm just telling you, if they don't win this year, he's gone. And they are not set up to win this year. Offensively, I don't feel like they're set up to win. Defensively, I like their front. They're in the running for best front in the league, but the depth on that defensive line is not great.
Burns is only 26. It's not like you made that move to be ready now.
So the point is, I think the Giants could have Bill Belichick as their head coach in a year. And I think that's interesting. Tough stretches, okay? Bills off a bye, week 12. They get the Niners, at the Rams, and at the Lions. That's a tough one. Steelers, they get all their...
They go 2 West Coast games in a row. That's kind of a mini vacation, though. For
You get to
cold
stay
weather
out
teams.
there.
That's
Yeah,
actually
which is
something
great.
to look forward to.
Which is great.
I'd be like, I don't give a fuck who we're playing. We get vitamin D for 2 weeks. I'm in.
I used to just go outside, sit outside the hotel,
Fucking say the word, coach.
study my playbook in the
Atrium.
parking lot.
Yeah.
Like, I'm happy to be in an LA parking lot. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's fucking December. Okay. Tough stretches. Steelers divisional stuff late in the year. They don't play a lot of their division foes until after week 10. And you know, Brandon Bean said this on this podcast today. He's like, I don't like it playing those like Patriots twice in 3 weeks, but I think from a fan standpoint, having all those division games backloaded can be fun because it can affect the race in that division. So where teams think they're in it until late. We used to always say, hey guys, we suck right now. And of course we never finished, but in St. Louis, if we had divisional games late, you'd say, hey, it's all still out there in front of
We
us.
beat Seattle and San Francisco. We're in the dance.
We're in the dance, which allows teams to figure things out. And I think like figuring the quarterback thing out in Pittsburgh, I can't for the life of me figure out why their win total is 8.5. Mike Tomlin, all he does is win 9 games. Everybody knows that, right? Now you got
Hold on a minute, player.
one more game to do it. How'd they get worse?
Well, I know we're talking out of both sides of our mouths with the strength of schedule, but they do face Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs in 10 days, December 15th through 25th.
They only need to find 9 of them for me to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying it's easy to find 9 games, but what I am saying is they got better offensively.
Is it Russ or is it Justin?
I think it's Russ to start the season, and
It's
eventually
Rustin.
Justin if Justin earns it. Justin's got to earn it. I don't believe all these reports that you hear from anonymous sources. Like, I didn't like it when they did it to Carson. I didn't like hearing the stuff I heard about Justin. Like, if you got those issues, air it out, right? Like,
Yeah.
air it out and put your name on it. There's people talking shit about Justin after he leaves Chicago. If any of that stuff's true, He's got to bring a new mindset up to Pittsburgh. If it's not, I think he's going to be fine. And I think Arthur Smith's going to be the best coordinator he's had. He's going to have George Pickens. He's going to have Freiermuth. He's going to have two great backs, not great backs, but two really good backs. He's going to have a defense that supports him and an offensive coordinator who I already mentioned that actually fits his skill set.
I think when he looked around in the locker room at times, and I mean, obviously he had DJ Moore there for a bit.
Cordero Patterson.
And they had a good synergy. But when he looks around in that huddle, when he's given the keys at certain times this preseason and during the season, he'll be like, there are guys like me physically in this huddle. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have an accumulation of dogs here. And I know sometimes some of their dogs misbehave, but I think it gives a guy like Justin Fields some comfort and a sense of community there. And in addition to that, you bring a quarterback like Justin Fields in, or any starting quarterback, and you throw him in with another starting quarterback, you think, well, God, I don't know if the chemistry is going to work out well. This is a guy that Justin Fields was openly trying to emulate as a young quarterback.
Right.
Because he was a baseball player.
Right.
He was a football player. He was physically gifted outside of just being able to throw the football. I think Justin and Russ have an opportunity, and vice versa for Russ. He gets to harbor this He gets to harbor this young quarterback.
I just look at this. Okay, when you're a player, the culture that you're playing under matters, especially if you're a quarterback. The coaching matters. Like, I can honestly say, and I've said this as a high draft pick before, like, you walk into a certain locker room and you're like, you don't realize how much the cards are stacked against you until you get out and you look around and you poke your head up and you're like, man, it's just not the same everywhere. And Chicago, for all the good things that they've been doing while they were considering whether or not they were going to move on from Justin Fields, they didn't have an established culture. Eberflus is establishing that culture. You walk into Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin's got a way to do it. It's his way or the highway. You've got TJ Watt on defense. You have Minkah Fitzpatrick. You have all these studs that have been there a long time. They know what the Steeler way is. And offensively, I think you've got guys around you that are leaders. Isaac Seumalo, the backs have been there a little bit. Jalen Warren's like a coach on the field, is my read. Like, he seems like just the guy you want in your locker room.
A lot of -0 and 1 yard carries for Najee Harris.
For sure.
A lot of them.
For sure. But the run game changed late last year. And I think they could probably – they had Broderick, right, last season. They draft another tackle.
They got 3 rookies projected right now, starters on the offensive line.
And that could go good or it could go bad. But I think it can't get worse. Like, there wasn't a lot of room to run at times for those guys. And when
if they can keep those guys on the field together throughout the course of the season, there's something to be said for guys who stay out there, whether or not they produce at an A or B level. If they can all play as C's together, I'll take that group over a group with an F, a D that are sometimes not available, and 1A. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, I want a unit.
And you might have that. You look at Atlanta. I don't think Atlanta has a lot of like blue chip guys,
Just
right?
Lindstrom.
Up front. Chris Lindstrom.
Just Lindstrom.
Great guard, right?
Yeah. He's an animal.
But outside of him, it's they make it work because they're well coached and they're on a string and the whole thing. And like Detroit, very good, right? Very good running the football. They have good backs. They have a good scheme. They have Penei Sewell, who's a differentiator. But it's not like you walk up and down that line and you're like, it's a bunch of all-stars. If you play together,
they're in the right spot.
If you play together and you're well coached, you'll be okay. And if Justin Fields is willing to work, all the organizational support systems are going to be there. You got a guy who's been a head coach as your offensive coordinator. Is he a good head coach? No. Right? He made some decisions in Atlanta we don't like, but he's going to be fine as a play caller. He's going to be Arthur Smith. Whatever that means, whatever you think that means, that's what he's going to be. And Justin Fields is going to have people around him that will instill the right work habits and right, ways of doing things that maybe you didn't have that in Chicago as much. And sure, would you like, if these reports are true, you'd love for Justin to come into the league and be ready to not play into these, but that's not always the way it is. Players change, players mature, and I think this will be good for his maturation.
I think we'd be remiss not to mention Frank Ragnow right now.
He's a beast. He's a beast.
Because when I said they have him in the right spots, I mean they have a guy in the middle who directs traffic and actually mauls people in the A gaps and helps out on double teams with the guards, to your point.
Yeah.
And then they've got force multiplier at tackle.
Well, I like the
Like the San Francisco run game without Trent. They can't do the same things they do with without Panay.
I like the physicality that Pittsburgh seems to be thinking with up front. You know, I really do think they're trying to bully people a little bit, and
Sam Allen's a huge part of that.
and that's great. And they draft the kid from Oregon State or
Washington.
number 50, the tackle there, who can play different positions. It looks like with his body type. So you know they have invested in that offensive line, and that Broderick kid is just a fucking mountain. So I love Isaac. I talk about Isaac Seumalo all the time. That's like bringing somebody in from Stoutland's O-line room. It's like you got another coach on the field, and he's a smart player. So I don't know. You know, we didn't plan to talk about the Steelers that much, but I probably wrap this thing up with the schedule, talking about the schedule releases, because that's been a topic that people like to hit. Here's my advice to NFL teams: you don't have to do one.
Right.
Like there are some really bad ones. Like I would say 85% were like, what are you doing? You know, the best one obviously is the Chargers. Chargers are the gold standard. I mean, whether it's Butker in the kitchen,
Yeah.
Titans.
cooking a pizza. The Titans, I thought this year was a little bit underwhelming for me.
I don't like the sequel, but I still think it was better than most.
Were you mad that you weren't part of the Patriots Goodwill Hunting?
No, and listen, like that shit's not cute anymore. Like the Boston shit's not cute when you're not winning. You can't just do like fucking the same jokes. Like, did you see the movie with Matt Damon? It's not cute anymore. Like it basically was like the same commercial that WinBet did with like Ben Affleck.
The Bears did it with all the Chicago themed movies too.
No, yeah, you know.
It's kind of played.
Okay, so Jaguars did Vine. I thought that was pretty good. There was a Vine of a kid getting hit with a piece of
Cheese.
Like,
It was great.
slice of cheese
Yeah.
when they played Packers. That's great. Titans, not as good this year. Colts like cop out. They did like Renaissance art. Texans did ASMR, which is the dumbest fucking thing ever. Jets, weird. Pats did a skit, not good. Dolphins, total cop out. Fastest team, not very creative. Bills made every LeBron James into a different opponent every week. Like I don't even see the connectivity there. I have Chiefs cheerleaders and makeup's awful, but that wasn't actually their schedule release. Chargers did Sims, they crushed it.
The Sims was good.
They crushed it.
Butker cooking in the kitchen.
Yeah, they. I didn't get the Steelers ski mask guy. Did you?
He's stealing.
So there's a QR code supposedly in
Spelled
this thing
incorrect.
that if you click the QR code, it's on the Raiders week. It takes you to like the International Clown Convention. It's incredible. I love the Kelsey's talking about squirrels. I thought that was the funniest shit in the world. Travis's big brain tweet about, squirrels are crazy,
Yeah.
man.
Butchered squirrel.
And then they had these two little Sims Kelsey brothers talking about squirrels, like in the little speech bubble with squirrels. Okay. I love the Saints voodoo doll, DJ Kirk, Chiefsaholic. You had Butker in the kitchen, which was beautiful how they turned that around so quick. Paul Pierce, you had a Paul Pierce poop chair in there. You have Morgan Wallen throwing a chair. I don't pay attention to.
He threw a chair off of Eric Church's bar, I believe. And now they have a plaque
I'm surprised you didn't.
where he threw it.
I'm surprised you
The
didn't.
plaque says, "Don't do it. You're not Morgan Wallen,"
Surprised he's like.
which is pretty good.
All right, Broncos. Lewis Hamilton, terrible. Just terrible.
Who's
Who
Lewis
watches
Hamilton?
F1? He's an F1 racer.
I know who it was.
And he's eating food. I don't see the connectivity. Steelers, bad jokes. Browns, bowling, not very good. Bengals, kids playing with mascots, not a great effort. Ravens had your boy Stavi.
Saw it.
That was funny.
He took Johnny's card.
Big Cat made the Packers one, which was just fine. Okay, Lions, they had comedians. That was funny. They had the guy,
Tim Robinson
right? He's really funny, but it
and
was kind
Sam
of like
Richardson. They're hilarious.
they just were like, we don't have a lot of time. We're just going to have these guys talk for 2 minutes. Vikings had a British guy narrate theirs. It was really bad. Bears, they did the high school thing. Not great. Eagles, Rorschach test. Listen, I want to compliment everything the Eagles do, but that just was all right. Cowboys, I got a bone to pick with the Cowboys.
I was gonna say you're saying all this with being a part of one.
Well, I am technically a part of one. The Cowboys called me a couple weeks ago, and they said, "Hey, howdy, partner. We want you to be on our schedule release." And I said, "I guess I can do that." So the Cowboys are doing schedule release, and they're doing a theme, a pop culture theme, which is why I asked you about pop culture themes earlier. You had no idea why. Kyle's rattling off pop culture themes to me, but this Kyle's like the NBA playoffs. So,
Said the election.
the election.
He's
That's
like,
not a
no,
pop-
stop. He's
like
just
like
stop.
Beanie Babies are a pop culture theme, if it were. So, anyways, the Cowboys are doing this thing where supposedly on TikTok, people FaceTime people and they pull it up and everybody's just sitting there and they're still. Like, and so when you pick up the FaceTime, you're like, what the fuck? So the Cowboys call me and I have my little set made up for when I pick up. And it's Jerry Jones, Dak Prescott, Michael Irvin, and somebody else. I can't remember, but they're all sitting there and they're trying to keep a straight face. They're like, and the cheerleaders stand behind him. And I'm like, hey guys, like, I don't know how long it's going to go on, but I got to have something. So I print out like 5 color pictures of Micah Parsons in an Eagles uniform. Like, and it's beautiful. It looks exactly like what it's going to look like when he eventually is like, you know what? I'd like to just be able to drive to a Sixers game. You know, like you don't have to wait for the bye week and go back to Harrisburg to see my family. He wants to be an Eagle. Micah, you want to be an Eagle. You ignore you answer my DMs when I'm talking about something else, but when it's an Eagles thing, you don't answer. I know you want to be an Eagle, okay? But I put Micah Parsons in a big frame, all blown up in an Eagles jersey, put it behind me, had the green light hat on, trying to get some signage in there. Michael Irvin's Dak, they're like trying not to crack up. I'm like, Jerry, you recognize this guy? I'm like, Jerry, can we borrow him?
Hey, Chris.
You've seen him at the Sixers games, and they're just trying to keep a straight face. Dak actually almost cracked up. And then it ends, and everybody's laughing. I'm like, Michael, that's the longest I've seen you stay quiet. Like, that was crazy. And, it's like, oh, well, this is going to be out next week, the whole thing. So schedule release comes out last night. It's not like I had it on my calendar, but somebody's like, hey, the Cowboys release is out. Here's the link. So I clicked the link to YouTube, and they have Shane Gillis for the first time the Eagles play. And then the second time the Eagles play, I'm like, oh, this must be me. Don Staley pops up, and then me. So they split me and Don Staley. We're both
UVA legends.
Which is actually kind of cool. I didn't think about it that way, because I should have.
Champions.
But then I go to Twitter to be, quote tweet their schedule release, and I say honored, And I get on the Twitter schedule release, which is basically the front page where you want to show people what you got. And it's just Don Staley.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Now, so I don't take that personally because I know why it happened. Here's why it happened, in my opinion. Number one, they needed somebody. They got a hold of me. They couldn't get a hold of Don Staley until after me. So I was like 1B.
She had just gone undefeated, right?
Most people seeing me are like, who the fuck is that guy? Right?
I don't know about that.
No, that's true. Second, and this is the most important point, they don't want people seeing the Micah Parsons thing because they know it's true. That to me is an admission of guilt. They know, Jerry knows that one day Micah Parsons will be wearing midnight green. They know.
That's crazy.
And they took me off the schedule because of it. And I'm okay. Like, I'm fine. I'll be on somebody else's schedule release next year. But I got to tell you, I looked in Jerry's eyes on that FaceTime, and he knew what I was picking up and putting down, and he didn't want any part of it. He tried to laugh it off, but he took me off the schedule release. That's what's happened.
Wow.
Is that crazy?
That's crazy.
Is that spicy?
That's spicy.
But I thought I executed it. I executed it brilliantly. Okay?
Jerry, you recognize this guy?
You recognize this guy, Jerry? So I had some ideas for how I would actually do a schedule release, because some of these people are fucking terrible. And this took me 5 minutes. You can hire me. I'll do it for free. Okay? Schedule release.
PDF.
Pictionary, dude. Pictionary. Have players on the street corner having to Pictionary the fucking opponent, and they can't leave the street corner until somebody gets it. Right? Mm-hmm. That's fun.
I feel like we've seen that.
No, I don't think we have.
The Pirates of
Where
South
did we see
Florida.
it?
A few years ago.
Well, who?
I don't remember.
Yeah. I don't think
Titans?
No, they were on the street asking people what the logo was, and people were like, "Yeah, that's Dak Prescott's team. It's the Colts."
Okay.
So this would be a little different. Another one would be like a military campaign. Okay, so like say you're the Bills. Say you're the Bills. Okay, you play the Cardinals the first week. It's Jonathan Gannon telling his regiment, "Pew pew explosives," and the guns jam. Okay, second week they're playing the Dolphins. Oh, God, it's the fastest team in the league. McDermott's like, oh, they can't hit us from here. We're good. Like deep ball. Okay? You play the Jags. You could do an Urban Meyer joke. You could be in the pool with like a submarine there. You play the Jets. It's the Red Scare, right? Titans, you guys got a Mayo blaster. It's ineffective. You know, it's basically
Mayo
like
blaster.
it's what they used to do on the Jumbotron at Scott Stadium, where the mascot defeated somebody every week.
when
You know, the
when
Yellow
the guy
Jacket
would
comes
ride
down.
in, he
Mhm.
would ride in through town, and then there would be a giant hokey standing at Scott Stadium.
Or there'd be like a big Yellow Jacket that would like
Yes.
try to take over the town, and the Cavalier would vanquish him.
back when
and
they
the
used
Yellow
to
Jacket-
Photoshop it.
You're like, hey, where's your wife? And the Yellow Jacket's like, well, she's at home.
Oh, and Catman is now Catwoman. Don't tell HB.
Is it now Catwoman?
Yeah.
You play the Seahawks, you got a bunch of Antifas trying to get into a tank, and they can't get into it because they're not strong enough. Dolphins, you could light their house on fire, or like it's Tyreek with an army of kids, you know, and you got to take on Tyreek's whole.
Nate said he has so many kids that he went past the point of having to pay child support, so he doesn't have to pay child support.
Nate's like, it's actually smart.
I was like, yo, Nate.
No, he found a loophole.
Nate was like, yo, I'm serious.
You know, there was a really brilliant Xavier Howard inside release admin I had, but like the joke is still plays for Tyreek Hill. The guy's incredible getting the inside release.
Mhm.
Yes, the best.
So you know, you play the Chiefs, they're all doing the chop. You're like, can't do that, you losers. You know, there's ways to do this.
I was thinking like fireworks show or like gender reveal style. Just, you know, have a couple pinatas, whack them, and see what kind of toys fall out.
You play the Chiefs and it's just blue.
Just logos. It's just
You get the manliest kicker in the league.